Hey everyone, this is Goku Sun DBZ. Welcome back for a new Cells history. And of course, I've done so far 3 fighting franchises, and the last one I did was the first non-fighting franchise, of course, Cells history, and that being Twisted Metal. So, welcome back for a new fighting game edition of Cells history. This time we're going to look at a series that's only a total of 6 games, and one is technically just 2 versions of the same game. And that is the Bloody Roar franchise, and in the background I chose music from Bloody Roar 2, The New Breed. Hopefully you enjoy. This probably won't be as long as some of the errors videos I've done. With that said, let's get started. The Bloody Roar series, of course, is a 3D arena-style fighting game, obviously. And it plays much like, though, in the early days, in 1 and 2, you can only do basically side steps. Pretty much like early Tekken, if you will, gameplay aspect-wise. Though by Bloody Roar 3, it really would allow you to more move around freely, like basically Tekken Tag Tournament onward. Also allowed you more to do that to an extent. That was mainly Tekken 4 onward. With that said, the first game in the series, of course, was released in 1998, kind of late, surprisingly. It would be released, of course, exclusive to the original PlayStation, and it would end up the average overall scores among critics were pretty positive. On average, it got an 8.6 out of 10. That's not bad at all. For a debut game in the franchise, it did pretty decent, though, to be fair. Bloody Roar series has always been more of a niche, I guess you could say, franchise, speaking as a hardcore fan of the series. Bloody Roar 1 would end up selling around 390,000 copies, which, to be fair, is really not that bad for the beginning of a new fighting game franchise. And it's kind of a shame that Bloody Roar 2 would end up doing the best by far in sales numbers. But in my opinion, Bloody Roar 2, The New Breed, is by far the best in the franchise. With that said, but yeah, Bloody Roar 1 was pretty solid, introduced a lot of interesting stuff, and gave its own distinctive flavor of fighting style, with the whole, of course, transforming into animals mechanic, or known as Zoranthropes. Next, we would see Bloody Roar 2 The New Breed, as I mentioned, and it also was exclusive to the original PlayStation. Total, it ended up selling around an estimated 460,000 copies. Not the hugest, and it's even more sad to think this is the best selling of the franchise. And it didn't even crack 500,000. 460,000 still isn't that bad. I mean, it was a 70,000 increase from the first game in the series. But unfortunately, as we know after this, it started going down, unfortunately. Though, at first it looked like it had real potential. Next, though, we would see another pretty solid selling game in the series, the third best selling in the series. Next would be released. Oh yeah, and on average, I forgot to mention, Bloody Roar 2 got an 8.2 out of 10 among critics, so they also scored pretty good. Next would be Bloody Roar 3, released in 2001 on the PlayStation 2. It still sold halfway decent, but yeah, this is when it started going down. It sold a total of 350,000 copies, which isn't super bad. For a niche franchise, that's not bad. 390, 460, but then dropped to 350. So that was over a 100,000 drop from the previous game. Then we would see, oh yeah, and quickly mention its overall critical score was a 7.6. Still not huge, but it was unfortunately a drop also, not only in sales numbers, but also in critic response. Next, we would get the first of 2 versions of basically the same game. First version we would get of this released in 2002 it would be released exclusively for the Nintendo GameCube, and today is listed as the second most expensive of the franchise to collect. Um, that being, of course, Bloody Roar Primal Fury, released as I said in 2002. Its critic response was okay. It got a 7.9 out of 10 in critic score. And then it would sell about 180,000 copies. That's quite a drop. That's like about half of what Bloody Roar 3 did. Keep in mind, this also came out though 1 year after Bloody Roar 3 did. But GameCube has smaller audience, to be fair, so it's not surprised. Now, it did introduce a lot of new gamers to the Bloody Roar series, being exclusive on the Nintendo GameCube, which was good because the GameCube didn't have a huge amount of good 3D fighting games, so it at least helped fill in that void with fighting game fans of the GameCube. Then we would see the improved version that would come out 1 year later in 2003. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find any critic scores on this one. This would be released exclusive to the original Xbox. Now, in the Primal Fury version, you got like the cutscenes and stuff were all in anime, but they did from the ground up did full CGI cutscenes for the Xbox version. And that would be my second favorite in this franchise. That being Bloody Roar Extreme, as I said, released in 2003. It would unfortunately only sell 40,000 copies. That sucks. It did 140,000 less than Primal Fury, even though I feel by far it plays the best of the two versions. In my opinion, overall mechanically, graphically, speeds and everything, I think by far it is superior to the. Plus, you even got a special new character added to the game in this version, a special unlockable character called Fang, which was a special alternate version of Yugo the Wolf. Which actually I liked the Fang character. But yeah, and then next we would of course see the last and final game of the series, released in 2004, Bloody Roar 4, which is by far the most expensive game in the franchise. On average, it'll cost you like $50 and up now, which is kind of crazy. Not many fighting games on the PS2 go for that. But yeah, it was an exclusive on the PlayStation 2. Notice something similar. Pretty much every game would be exclusive in some way, shape, or form. Though Primal Fury and Extreme were the same game, just different titles and on different consoles. But Bloody Roar 4 was most definitely the final one in the series, unfortunately, because not too long after, Hudson Soft, which made the series, would be killed by, of course, the company that ended up owning Hudson Soft, and of course that being Konami. Total, the game actually ended up getting an 8.0 critic score, which is surprising because I think it's by far the worst game in the franchise, personally. They had to completely change up the way the transfer meter and everything worked. I really didn't like a lot of the changes they did in 4. It would end up selling about 90,000 copies. So that's quite a drop in the mainline games. You go 390, 460, 350 to 90. That's a pretty massive drop in the mainline, but unfortunately it would be the final game in the franchise, and we haven't heard anything since from Bloody Roar. But that is Konami, which owns the rights, unfortunately. But that is it for this edition of sales history of video games, and this time Bloody Roar franchise. Now I am going to say probably within a month of now that I'll probably be working on the next one, and the next of the sales series I'm going to be doing is gonna be a bit short, only 4 games in the series, but I'm gonna be looking at the Fear series. So that's gonna be interesting. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and stay safe out there, everyone.